You're going to love today's show. We put some special segments together. There are many ways we're exposed to mold, food, medicines, etc. Today we're going to talk about, in the opening of the show, inhaling mold. Then Dr. John Trowbridge, man, when you know what this doctor knows about yeast, mold, and mildew, there's pure frustration. Other doctors don't know this. See what he's been through. He'll join us. Resveratrol, a little tiny bit in red wine, but supplementation might work better. Why? Good antifungal properties to resveratrol. And finally, Marty Whittakin is going to be here talking about hormones. We need to learn more about natural hormones, and she's good at that. Headaches, vomiting. Someone asked me, what would you do, Doug, if you had this going on? Watch.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate, and you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
In Leviticus, the Lord tells Moses and Aaron, when you enter the land of Canaan that I am giving you as your possession, if I put a spreading mildew in a house in that land, you must tell the high priest, hey, something gray is growing on my walls, right? Why was this mildew so dangerous? It was a fungus that could spread and cause disease. I wish medical books said that. Folks, all of a sudden here on this globe, we're finding fungus and saying, wow, where did fungus? This is brand new. It isn't brand new. It's one of the oldest organisms known, and yet we doctors, I'm not a doctor, doctors are just now saying, gosh, we're finding brand new molds growing in people with COVID and other diseases. It's always been there. We're just detecting it now, okay? Human exposure to fungi or fungal mycotoxins, these are poisons made by fungi. Number one, diet, corn, wheat, peanuts. Number two, broken skin. Older medical textbook talked about the farmer that was out there working in the field, cut his finger on some barbed wire, lifted up hay that had mold in it because it was wet, and boom, he had a heart attack. Medication, antibiotics are fungal metabolites. And finally, inhalation. I want to talk a little bit about that inhalation right now. Inhaling Aspergillus species mold is an everyday event for every one of us, you and me. Aspergillus mold is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. But certain species of this mold make poisonous byproducts called mycotoxins. One of them is known to cause human cancer, by the by. Ordinarily, a strong immune system will combat illness after inhalation, but people who are sick, for example, with COVID-19, inhalation of this mold can be deadly. And they're now finding histoplasma, mucormycosis, aspergillus mold in the lungs and in the inhalation system, nasopharyngeal cavities of people who have died from COVID. Gee, that COVID must have caused fungus to grow. Could the mentality be reversed? Gee, that person had a fungal burden. They lived in a moldy home, and COVID, because mold makes your immune system dip, they were easy prey for COVID when they inhaled it. We aren't there yet in science, but I think eventually when I'm long gone, they'll probably find that to be true. Invasive pulmonary, that means lung tissue, aspergillosis, in the COVID-19 era, an expected new entity. After reviewing about 100 cases of people who had COVID-19 and also had lung aspergillus infections, this team of researchers out of a journal called Mycotoxin just a few months ago came to this conclusion. COVID-19 associated lung aspergillus infections must be considered a serious and potentially life-threatening complication in patients with severe COVID-19 receiving immunosuppressive treatment. The chicken or the egg? Which comes first? Our doctors are saying, no, COVID comes first. Certainly, Doug, it couldn't be the other way around. I think, folks, with 1.5 to 2 million people a year, this is what we're admitting in the United States, dying of fungal diseases. And you watch my shows, I have provided science that says some of these mycotoxins are probable or one of them is a known human carcinogen. And yet an oncologist would say that's not true. Fungus can't cause cancer. Does. Well published. I wouldn't bring it to you unless it was. Okay? So this to me is fascinating. A new entity. Aspergillosis beyond COVID-19. And look at this opening sentence. Chronic pulmonary aspergillosis affects patients without obvious immune compromise. We call those immunocompetent patients, not immunocompromised patients. Aspergillus bronchitis may be responsible for persistent respiratory symptoms in patients with aspergillus detected repeatedly in their sputum. In patients with bronchiectasis and cystic fibrosis, allergic bronchopulmonary lungs, aspergillosis affects patients with asthma and cystic fibrosis. So we know this stuff is out there. We know it's injuring people, but we never look for it when the patient comes in with asthma or bronchitis. Never. Well, that's just a problem you inherited. Could it be a mold? We're all designed to inhale. Inhalation with strong immunity allows for very few bugs getting into our lungs, so develop strong immunity. Bugs enter us when we have other health conditions, comorbidities they're called. So, choose your lifestyle wisely. We know that cigarette smoking, fungus, alcohol intake, fungus, and rounds of antibiotic, fungal mycotoxins can contribute to other health conditions. I remain convinced that the proper diet and lifestyle choices prevents the onset of so many fungal-induced health problems. Just the way it goes, folks. Talk to your doctor about fungus if you suspect that it might be there. Dr. Hook and the Medicine Man?
And Medicine Show.
Medicine Show. We keep getting richer, but we can't get our picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. I used to love that song. And Sylvia's Mother, I mean, they did all these great songs. Right. My good friend, folks, of 40 plus years, Dr. John Trowbridge, did something I've wanted to do for 40 years, and here it is. He is on the cover of the Townsend Letter. Now, those of us in alternative medicine, even traditional medicine, have loved that Townsend Letter for, what, 30, 40 years. That's been around a long, long time. You made the cover. And I remember you said that the doctor wanted, who runs the whole thing, wanted, you know, a little 5 or 6 page. What'd you submit?
Well, Jonathan has been happy with me because I write nice articles on chelation, trying to get the world to understand how it really works, okay? He said, you know, you haven't written me an article for a while. I want one, but I want this one on the yeast because nobody knows how to treat it. And I go, Jonathan, I've lectured around the world on this. I've written. He said, they're not listening. I said, okay. So he wanted 6 or 8 pages. So I sent him 30.
Can I ask you, is it frustrating for you, and I know you've lectured all over the world widely on this, is it frustrating for you to see your peers when you teach this? I thought...
My peers.
Your peers.
My peers.
Would they be at the same meeting?
No.
Okay, then you'd be lecturing to alternative doctors on this.
When I talk to the alternative doctors, some of them really get it, but they want to do it their way, even though their training and experience isn't like mine. And when I talk to regular doctors, I don't talk to regular doctors, actually. You know what? They're not interested.
Yeah.
They have their protocols. They're following their corporate dictates. They're following what their professor said dozens of years ago, and tell you what? That's why their patients aren't getting better.
You know, really, allopathic medicine was founded on the premise that you can erase a symptom, you know, by blocking a normal selective serotonin reuptake. That's supposed to happen. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibition isn't supposed to happen. You can do that with a pill. And it's so frustrating to me that these brilliant people, 160, 180, 90 IQ, are told, reach in here and block a process for 4 to 6 hours at a time.
You know, Doug, you have to remember something. Your body is perfect. It never makes a mistake. It does exactly what it is supposed to do given the circumstances. So you just slap the body around or change the circumstances, and then the body can do the healing.
Teach me about your background with yeast. I mean, you wrote the yeast syndrome almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, 36 years ago.
36 years ago. It's still selling, flies off the shelves. When did you first learn about yeast?
I learned about it in 1983. A friend of mine, I was actually visiting his clinic for chelation, and what I discovered was this little plaque on the wall about yeast. He goes, "What's that?" Oh, you got to learn about that. So I went to the next conference. I got to meet, Dr. Crook. I got to meet Dr. Truss, the big guys, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, my eyes were opened, and I said, I have got to deal with this. I figured people are going to beat a path to my door. So you know what? Fully 1/3 of the patients did not come back for their second or their third visit because we called them and said, "What's up?" I only thought I felt bad before I came to see you. That's when we had to develop a treatment for the die-off reactions. All of a sudden, they're getting flooded with yeast toxin. And I was, whoa, no, we got to be much more gentle with the body.
When you tell a patient about this diet that they have to go on, and they get all excited, and then they come back in 2 weeks to see you. Well, I did it for 4 days, didn't notice changes, and I can't do it. They have to go to that refrigerator in that home with that family.
Right.
It's difficult.
Well, when you leave your front door, you're in dangerous territory. The only place you can make it safe is at home. And really, we don't take patients unless they're committed to getting better. Because why waste the time and why get them frustrated? You know the story about making a pig, pay attention.
Put lipstick on a pig.
Just frustrates the pig, So the deal is, why frustrate people when they're ready? They are perfect patients.
God made no mistake.
No mistake.
It's just amazing.
Perfect body.
Exactly. The Yeast Syndrome is the book that he has written. Would you like to download one free? Sick and Tired by my guest today, Dr. John Trowbridge, a mentor of mine, friend of mine for many, many years. Thank you for coming in. Your website?
It's healthchoicesnow.com, because if you don't know you have health choices now, you don't have any.
And I'm so jealous of your phone number. What is it?
1-800-FIX-PAIN.
1-800. How did you get that? Long time ago.
You just call up and say, I want it,
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Doug.
You bet. Oh, to red wine or not to red wine? That is the question. As it turns out, God made the skin of purple grapes purple for a reason. There's a phytonutrient called resveratrol in there, and we need to talk a little bit about this resveratrol. And within the next 5 minutes, you're going to know why. Folks, you can walk into a health food store and in many pharmacies right now and pick up a bottle of resveratrol. Is that a good idea? Let's go down that road. Compound found in red wine opens door for new treatments for depression and anxiety, says Science Daily in the year 2019. Resveratrol found in grape skin shuts down depression-causing enzyme in the brain. They always have an answer. Sporanox for cancer. Well, it seems to inhibit the hedgehog cancer pathway. What? It kills fungus. And the same here. Resveratrol. Let's keep going. Resveratrol is a plant phenol that produces antifungal chemicals called phytoalexins when under attack. When we think of resveratrol, we tend to think of grape skin, but blueberries, raspberries, mulberries, loganberries, as well as peanuts, cocoa powder, and dark chocolate all have good amounts. I see you guys with chocolate. Be careful with peanuts, okay? But the berries all have good quantities of resveratrol in it. The point I want to make is so many doctors are telling their patients, oh, you can have a glass of red wine because of that resveratrol. How about a bowl of blueberries? Put it in your yogurt. It's delicious. I do that. And so it isn't just red wine, but of course the medical community talks a lot about red wine. Resveratrol has been extensively studied for a variety of different health beneficial effects, including but not limited to anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, anti-obesity, anti-diabetes type 2, anti-aging, cardiovascular protection, and neuroprotection, says the International Journal of Antimicrobial Agents in 2019. This is a pretty good nutrient. You have to learn about this. I encourage you guys to really look at loganberries and other berries because of this resveratrol, or take resveratrol capsules. Resveratrol helps fight colorectal, breast, prostate, and lung cancer. And I gave this lecture to a group of oncologists here 5 or 6 years ago. Colorectal, the hedgehog signaling pathway is involved in the inhibitory effects of resveratrol on human colorectal cancer. Out of Iran, this study, resveratrol suppresses breast cancer cell invasion. Experimental molecular medicine, Prostate cancer cells ineffective on resveratrol, and then anti-tumorigenic effects of resveratrol on lung cancer cells. So it's out there. Resveratrol is really a good supplement, okay? Why would resveratrol be so good for so many things? Cancer, depression, anxiety, and all these other conditions. Here comes an article from the year 2005, and I have it on my desk right now. Fungicidal effect of resveratrol on human infectious fungi. Let me just break away here and tell you what that means. Fungistatic means it slows down or stops fungus from metastasizing through your body. But fungicidal, now we can put that back up, Craig. Fungicidal effect of resveratrol mean it kills. Here's a supplement that's inexpensive and effective at killing fungus. The destruction of Candida albicans, by the way, that's yeast, it's a single-celled fungus. Destruction of Candida albicans cells by resveratrol was confirmed by scanning electron microscopy. These results suggest that resveratrol could be employed as a therapeutic agent to treat fungal infections of humans. Wow. Okay, finally, I thought this was great. I think you guys will think, I was going to have two glasses, you know, here, wine glasses. White versus red wine. Researchers inoculated red and white grapes with the Aspergillus mold. Okay? It is known to produce ochratoxin A, which has been detected in wine and is especially dangerous mycotoxin, as it's a potential carcinogen as well as genotoxic and teratogenic, affects a developing embryo. Okay, so let's keep going. The red grape showed no traces of ochratoxin after 12 days, but fungal growth appeared on the white grapes within 2 days. I guess if you've got to drink alcohol, what this says is a glass of red wine, not what they say is moderation. 58 bottles of wine a year is what the medical associations call moderation. Be careful out there. Get resveratrol supplements and see how they fare with your health. Well, peripherally there, you caught a glance of Marty Whittakin. Marty is a certified clinical nutritionist, a friend of mine for months, a lot of them. 33 years we go back to when you owned the health food store. She has counseled so many, her wise counsel has helped so many, and I got to meet so many of those people during your, you would do that annual get-together. Health shows, amazing. She has a show that airs, and I'm going to give you the stations here toward the end of this segment, all over America. HBN show, Healthy by Nature, hbnshow.com. But I know my audience, I know it well, my demographics, and most of us as we age want to hear about what you expound on all the time on your show, which I love, and that is hormones. Does it make sense, Marty, if I eat myself into illness during my lifetime, that when I went through menopause or womanopause, menopause, that I would be miserable with inflammatory tissue and so forth? Does that make sense?
It certainly does, because when you throw things out of balance, the original plan just doesn't work anymore.
So this would have been the women who had amenorrhea, no periods, or dysmenorrhea, very painful, who had all sorts of hormone, thyroid problems and so forth. Endocrine disruptors, obviously, in their life a lot, who then hit 50, 48, 50, 52 years old, and really go through misery with that. In all of your work and all of your counseling to people, have you found a way to alleviate some of the symptoms that women go through, specifically through menopause?
With, like anything, prevention is easier than fixing it once it's broken. And one of the things that people don't think about, I mean, certainly eating organic and getting all of the nutrition and not being fat is important, because fat cells create hormone imbalance and inflammation, which makes everything worse. But just a lot of the things in our environment, in our homes, have plasticizers in them that are, as you mentioned, endocrine disruptors. They act like estrogens and throw everything out of kilter. There are studies done where animals that are exposed to the runoff from some of these chemicals change genders because they can't follow the original plan because they've got too many of these fake estrogens.
This is all real. What Marty's saying is all real, and she preaches this every week. I've been on her show several times, and you can find in her archives on hbn.com our shows that we have done. We end up laughing through them and having a lot of fun. As far as where you can hear this show, certainly on our archives, but look at the cities she is in: Atlanta, Boston, good old DFW, Chicago, Denver. Congratulations. Look at all the way down to Tacoma, Washington. Then the next page is all of your Washington state. You must like it out there. You're all over the place.
It's one Christian network that covers all of that.
Most of your distribution is Christian. Is it all Christian?
No, a lot of it now is news talk.
They're all switching. Many people are going to news talk, Christian stations and the like. The information, folks, is life-saving. I have met some of Marty's clients that she has worked with through the years. I remember the years, boy, the headaches then, the health food stores and everything you were going through back then. She's an entrepreneur. She's a certified clinical nutritionist. Most importantly, her heart is in the right place. She understands our needs as we age, and woulda, shoulda, coulda, if only we'd have taken care of ourselves better in our younger age. Marty Whittekin, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Doug.
Now for something really serious, folks. Silva asks on Facebook, for over a decade, I've had episodes with vomiting and headaches. The retching alone might induce the headaches, but I want you to know something. Certain fungi cause disease in man. You know what one of the mycotoxins made by the fungus is called? Vomitoxin. Vomitoxin can be in our grain supply, folks. And so do you eat cereal, donuts, pasta, things of that sort, breads? Could there be a mycotoxin called vomitoxin? It's also called deoxynivalenol, DON, if your doctor wants to know. Maybe. If I were you, I'd go to a doctor and say, let me try Sporanox, the toenail fungus drug, which is now working for cancer patients, and nystatin, and I'm going to follow Kaufman's #1 diet. I'm going to try and starve whatever is making me vomit, if in fact it's fungus, and I want to take an antifungal drug that will get into my brain and throughout my body. Diflucan or Sporanox, nystatin, and the Kaufman 1 diet. You're going to know in a week or two if we're on the right track. Is this a fungus? You and your doctor will know. Pretty good show. My dear friend Marty Whittekin, certified clinical nutritionist on hormones. She answers so many questions on her radio shows. I get to listen to them and really enjoy them. What would I do if I had headaches, vomiting, that kind of thing? I told you. And I would. If you always do what you've always done, expect the same results. Change is in the wind. Inhalation of mycotoxins, aspergillus, etc. It's a real problem. It's a real problem. Indoor ducting, HVAC, etc. We need to think about it. And then how frustrated is Dr. Trowbridge with him understanding this for decades, but so few of his peers. It's a wonderful, wonderful career, mycology, and he knows it best. God bless you, folks. See you next time. Bye-bye.